Thank you. Bonsoir, Madame et Monsieur. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is a true honor to be able to stand here and be before you all today. Now, I hope to have a lot of fun and also an opportunity to learn a lot from you all, the professionals, while still sharing a little bit about myself with you. For me, I think it's important to always talk about the importance of early childhood development, global education, and how poverty can negatively affect the development of the next generation. So, my name is Zuriel Oduwole, and I'm a 14-year-old filmmaker and girl education advocate. Now, I've learned to stop right here for a moment, because I myself sometimes ask the same thing that you are, right? 14-year-old filmmaker or 14-year-old education advocate, but it's perfectly okay for you to think that. I myself sometimes ask myself, what am I doing up here? Okay, now this might make it more interesting to share. I actually made my first film at the age of 9 as part of a History Channel-sponsored competition. Now, I chose to create a documentary on the Ghana Revolution because I didn't believe that anyone else had told that story through film before. So I bothered, pestered, but I was finally able to convince my parents to take me to Ghana so that I can meet and interview the man who started the revolution in 1979. Flight Lieutenant Jerry Rawlings. He later became president of Ghana and has so far had the most influence in his country's recent history. I later on created a few other films, but my first documentary that made for the big screen, I made when I was 12, and it was called A Promising Africa. Now, that documentary, it showed in 2 cinema chains and is now screened in 5 countries across 3 continents, including in the UK and in Tokyo, Japan. Somehow, I now know that to be able to, at age 9, 12, or even 14, produce and edit a film means a lot of learning must have taken place. I'm sure you'd all agree with this, right? Now, this takes me to the other thing that I do, and it is perhaps the one that would have the most developmental impact in the lives of many around the world, and that is education advocacy. Now, what I do is I try to convince government leaders about the importance of ensuring that all children, but especially girls, not just get an education, but a good education. I do this because I found out that all around the world, the education of girls is not taken as seriously as the education of boys. Now, this may be for cultural reasons or economic reasons, such as poverty. But both boys and girls become men and women, and they are expected to become productive members of society. So they all need to be educated. As part of this project, I speak to out-of-school children, but mostly in-school children, about the importance of education and the need to stay in school for as long as they can. Now, so far, I've spoken to more than 24,890 youths in 12 countries. And some of those countries include Tanzania, Kenya, South Africa, Malawi, the UK, Ghana, and 16,000 screaming youths at the SCP Center in San Jose, California. Well, as you can imagine, children only walk along the lines that adults ask them to. So this means that the children are not making the education policies, right? That is why I speak to world leaders whenever I travel about making education policies that includes all children. So far with that project, I have met one-on-one with 24 presidents and prime ministers, some of those including the leaders of Liberia, Tanzania, Guyana, Croatia, Malta, St. Kitts and Nevis, South Sudan, and many more. Now, it's been both fun and fascinating being able to meet all of these world leaders because they're obviously not expecting to hear about child policies from a kid. But one of the huge benefits about hearing about it from a child is that they believe it needs to be done. Because they're thinking, here is this child who's doing so much. Maybe if we start to begin to do some of the things that she suggests, it just might make a difference. At least that's what I believe they're thinking. Because the world isn't just a global village anymore, as people once said 20 years ago. But it's a global education village where we all learn from each other. I'd like to share this true story about a country called South Sudan. Now, for those of you who don't know this, South Sudan is unique in two ways. First, it is the newest country in the world after being carved out of Sudan in 2011. Now, here's the second but also tough part of South Sudan. It actually has one of the highest rates of girl marriage in the world. Most girls in that country, by the age of 12 or 13, are already married. Yeah, that's what I said, married. And most times, it's to someone who is at least 10 years older than they are. Now, I would like to ask you all to do this small exercise with me. Would you? Okay, now please close your eyes. And keep them closed. No peeking. Now, I would like you to imagine your niece, your neighbor's daughter, your best friend's daughter, or even your own daughter being married when she is 12 or 13. Okay, you can open your eyes now. I think you would all agree that it's not a nice picture to see, right? If you agree that it's not a nice picture, I would like to ask you all to please stand up. And clap your hands as loud as you can as a very simple gesture in support of all of those out there who are trying to stop this practice. Please clap for them. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Okay, yeah, you can all sit down now. Thank you. So I met with South Sudan's president, General Salva Kiir, to talk about this issue, and in my own way, ask, why does this happen? Now, he said something very interesting to me. First, he said that this practice has been going on for many generations, even before his parents were born. Now, here's the best part. He said that being part of a culture and a society, he didn't see the issue the way I was talking about it. So he promised that when he got home, he would start the conversation with the elders in the country about girls' education and sending their girls to school. Now, he let me know that it would be a long time to convince them, but at least he would start the conversation. I think one of the reasons why this happens is that they do not believe that girls need to go to school for whatever reasons. And then also, like most adults, it is difficult for them to see a child as an adult. We always see a child as just a child. That is, until they start doing adult things, like maybe making documentaries at the age of 9 or 10, or being interviewed on global TV networks like CNN and BBC, or speaking at the UN, and my favorite, talking to world leaders about making education policies. Now, there is something called culturally responsive teaching. And I myself scratched my head when I first heard about it. But it's simple. It basically means being sensitive to people's past challenges and opportunities when creating their education programs. Now, I am sharing all of these things with you all to say one thing. The power of youth today is priceless. And with the help of adults and established institutions, we youth can make an even bigger difference in the development of the next generation. Us, the youth of today, your children, and the future leaders of this world. Thank you all very, very much. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Thank you.